Hey YouTube, Unknown Prepper here. Today talking about some things to consider for purchasing a vehicle to be a bug out slash emergency vehicle. Just some top 10 things to think about. Today we're going to use my Silverado as an example, but I'm not specifically saying that this is the vehicle you should buy. Just a couple different examples to consider when working on your vehicle that you already have or purchasing a new one. And number one, in no specific order, would be ground clearance. So the reason why the Silverado is a good example of why ground clearance is important is typically in a survival situation or, an emergency situation where a lot of times the road is not in good shape or 100% accessible. You may have to leave the road surface. Now you can see with my truck, I have almost a foot of ground clearance before you get to the bottom of the bumper, and this is actually just an air guard. This can come off. Now along with that, my truck does have a small leveling kit on it, which allows it to sit higher and give me more ground clearance. But any vehicle that has a higher amount of ground clearance would be a good start. Some of the vehicles to consider would be pickup trucks like this one, including the Ram, the F-150, the Silverado, some larger SUVs like the 4Runner, the Ford Bronco, and the Jeep Wrangler. And again, the reasoning behind that is you want to be able to leave the road surface, drive over curbs, sticks, and other debris that may be on the road after a SHTF event or just an emergency situation like possibly a hurricane or a tornado. Alright, so number two is going to be fuel economy. Now this is an area where a larger vehicle like this one is going to struggle, and it may be something that you want to consider. Maybe a full-size pickup truck like this one is not the best option for fuel economy. They do make mid-size and small trucks that still have a bed, still have four-wheel drive, and still have decent clearance, but get pretty good gas mileage. So that would be something to consider. Also, crossovers with all-wheel drive would be something to consider. And some of the cars that have all-wheel drive as well. Obviously everything has its pros and cons. Unfortunately, for a larger vehicle like this, that is something that you have to consider, as fuel may be harder to find in one of those situations. Number three is going to be parts availability. So the reason why I'm under the hood here is I wanted to show the engine on this pickup truck. It's a Chevrolet 5.3. This is one of the most produced V8 engines in the world, basically. And the reason why that's important is availability. So if you had a part that broke on these, there's going to be a lot of other vehicles that share the same parts as this Silverado, including the Tahoe, the Suburban, the GMC pickup trucks, and some of the work vans as well. So you want to pick a vehicle that is pretty popular and will have a lot of the same parts that you can kind of pick off of other vehicles if you had to, or it's just, something that you could do a full swap on. So parts availability is important. Now this goes the same thing for some of the more common vehicles. Like I said, the F-150 shares a lot of the same parts with the other larger trucks and stuff and SUVs, so you definitely want a vehicle that's more common so you can strip and steal parts off of other vehicles. So number four is going to be aftermarket accessibility and parts. So you can see that my truck has a tonneau cover, which is something that I've added. If you pick a vehicle that is more popular, the aftermarket for the vehicles, there's a lot more stuff that you can buy for them, which is helpful in the beginning if you're trying to prepare the vehicle for an event before it actually happens. You can buy things like tonneau covers, different headlights, stuff like that, different wheels, tire setups, all kinds of stuff to make the vehicle a better fit for what you're looking to do. And that even goes down into the interior of the vehicle. I don't have anything really aftermarket on the inside, but they do make covers for the seats and different things that you can hold equipment with the seats and stuff. So you definitely want to pick something that has a good aftermarket so you can, kind of equip your vehicle the way you like it. So for number five, people may disagree with this, but I think this is important. You want a vehicle that's going to blend into, everyday kind of use. So like I said, this is my Silverado. It's a very basic setup. It just has a leveling kit on it, but other than that, it looks like every other vehicle on the road. And you may ask, why is this important? I think this is important because you don't want to stand out in a situation where people are looking for your stuff. You want it to just kind of look like every other vehicle on the road, kind of blend in. You know, in a situation like that, you would even want to leave it dirty so people think that maybe the vehicle doesn't run or nobody's using it, and they'll hopefully leave it alone. I also think that you should tint your windows if you can, just to try and keep people from seeing what's inside the vehicle and maybe hiding some of your supplies. And then with that, I have the tonneau cover, which covers the bed, so if I ever had anything in the bed, people wouldn't be able to see what's in there, and they would hopefully leave the truck alone. Number 6 is going to be towing and capacity. So one of the things you want to consider with a bug out vehicle is the ability to use it kind of as a workhorse. Now with a pickup truck is a great example because you have this one has a 6.5 foot bed, and it also has the ability to tow over 7,000 pounds. Now that's going to be important later on because you may have to tow a lot of your equipment to a different position where you feel a little bit safer. And you also have the ability to tow a trailer and move more of your stuff at the same time, where a smaller vehicle may not have the towing capacity to pull a bigger trailer, or you may just not have the space to put all of your stuff and then still have a cab where you can you know, safely drive the vehicle. So number 7, I'm going to focus specifically on the tires. Like I said, this is not about a specific vehicle per se, but kind of what goes into a good bug out vehicle. And I would say one of the most important things is the tires that you have on your vehicle. Now these are Nitto Nitto Ridge Grapplers. These are kind of a mix between a mud tire and like a mud tire and an all-terrain tire, so they still get pretty decent gas mileage on the road, and yet they still have some pretty good knobs on them that if you had to take the vehicle off-road, they would supply really good traction in the wet, in mud, and in snow. Now this is really important because you could take a vehicle that, you know, if you couldn't afford a truck per se, if you put better tires on it, you can still get better traction and it can pull you out of a bad situation. So I highly recommend that even if you have a car, maybe get a set of winter tires so you can travel around in the winter a little bit easier. And tires do make a big difference. I've seen videos of a car with snow tires that's rear-wheel drive actually do better than a car that has all-wheel drive and has just regular street tires. So tires are definitely something you want to consider. Do your research and see what will fit on your car and what people are giving good ratings for off-road capability. So number 8 is going to be the fuel tank size. And the reasoning for this is you want to be able to travel pretty far if you have to. There may be a disaster where you have to travel pretty far out of your area. So you can see the fuel tank on my truck here. It's about a 25 gallon fuel tank, and I think for me the biggest thing is I want to be able to travel at least 300 miles on a single tank away from the area of kind of the disaster. So you want to consider that. Some of these newer pickup trucks, you actually can get a bigger fuel tank. You can order them with a bigger one. So if that's in your budget, then that's something that I would kind of go for if you can, because if the fuel tank is full, you can obviously travel outside of that disaster area and get yourself into a position where you can get fuel. Number 9 is going to be the capacity of people that you can have in a vehicle. So for example, I have a full-size truck. This is able to seat 6 people. This center console actually flips up, and even though it's not the most comfortable seating position, you can put 3 people in the front, and then when you come around to the back, the cab is small, but there's also room for 3 people in the back as well. Which is nice because you can transport 6 people at the same time, and then you still have the bed space that you can transport you know, everybody's equipment for 6 people. So it's definitely something to consider. Basically my point is you don't want to use a coupe or something really small, because you're most likely going to be taking possibly your family with you if you have one, and a lot of their stuff with them. And a 2-seater is just not a good setup for transporting any types of items or people. And number 10 is going to be reliability. Reliability is another very important factor, which I think should be high up on the list, like your tires. And the reason I'm saying this is you don't want to choose something that is notorious for being unreliable and it's going to get you in trouble when you need it the most. Now again, you have people that followed the different fan bases. Obviously I like the Chevy trucks, but you know, If you do your research and you find out which models are, you know, notorious for being reliable, I would go with something like that. There's tons of options out there. Like I said, to me, the pickup trucks and the larger SUVs just make more sense, but you should really do your own research and not take my word for it. Kind of develop your own opinion and then go after something that you think is going to work for you. Like I said, I would prefer a pickup truck personally, but that's just my opinion. But you should definitely look at some options that have four-wheel drive and really good reliability that will do you well in a survival situation. Now, if you guys disagree with any of the things that I've said, go ahead and drop it down below. If you have a vehicle that you've already determined is going to be your bug out / survival vehicle, drop it down below. Name some things that you think are important with a vehicle like this, and you know, just kind of drop your opinion down below. Thanks guys, have a great day.